everybody. It's Kathi and Colleen. We're here for Empowered Voices for our second podcast like recording. I guess technically it really is kind of a podcast, but anyway. If you have never seen us before, I'm a psychic medium, a Reiki master teacher. I do past life regression, soul to soul connections, mentoring, workshops, classes of all kinds. And what we are here to do, and I will have Colleen introduce herself in just a moment. What we are here to do is just have real talk about some stuff that comes up. I'm a big one for watching signs and connectedness, and that's a lot of where we come from. Right now it's Colleen and I, but at times you will see other friends, because kind of like Kathi, Colleen, and friends, um, talking about just different versions of what we do, from people who are new to people who have been here. I myself have been working for 23 plus years. I know Colleen's been 24 plus years, which of course she will tell you in a minute. But again, just normal, down to earth, whatever comes in our heads, talking about stuff.
Real
So I'm gonna
conversations from real people.
absolutely there we go. Uh, So I'm gonna pass it to Colleen so she can introduce herself.
Yes, hello everyone. So glad to be here for our podcast style event. We're just going to call it a podcast, like Kathy said. But my name is Colleen Lemma. I am an intuitive reader, healer, and teacher of about 25 years, safely say over 24 years, doing Akashic records, astrology, numerology, crystals, hypnotherapy, past life regression, and teaching lots of different things, doing lots of different meditations, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the quick recap from the first podcast if you missed it. So what are we talking
Yes.
about today, Kathy?
So I was thinking we were talking about, I mean, you and I were random in a random conversation, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fitting for what we're doing this year. Because we were talking about now, of course, it's towards the end of the year. We're on the cusp of Thanksgiving. And this year it's been a year. So I'm gonna give it to Colleen for a minute just to give the technicals because she is the astrologist. She can give you like a little bit of the technicals of what this year stands for.
Okay, well, let's see the technicals. We're gonna start by saying that, this year of 2025, from a numerology standpoint, when you add those
Mm.
numbers together, it's a nine, and the nine is the last of the single digit numbers. So this gives us a clue that this year has been about closure. It's about the completion of a chapter, of a karmic cycle, even. And that even holds true with the astrology, because with the astrology, I'm going to try not to get too astrological here, but we have Saturn that rules karmic lessons in the last sign of the zodiac, and he's finishing his transit in Pisces, that last sign of the zodiac, which again is clearing out the old stories, the old patterns, the old trauma, and getting us ready for a new cycle as we move into 2026. When we add those numbers together, it comes out to 10. And that we reduce when we add 1 plus 0 to a 1. And so we're headed to a time of new beginnings for sure. And I'm really excited about us moving into the new year. In fact, I'll just say I'm not an expert in Chinese astrology, but this year of 2025 has been the year of the snake, and snakes are all about transformation and death and rebirth. And boy, oh boy, I know Kathy and myself have been through a lot of death and rebirth cycles during this particular year, and I'm sure a lot of you out there that are listening have too. And we're going into in 2026 the year of the fire horse. So, and I'm so excited because horses are wild and free and liberated, and it's about movement. So, if you've been thinking, gosh, when is this transformation going to end? When are things when am I gonna feel more energized and vital and alive again, And when am I gonna be able to move forward with my dreams and my vision and my goals? And maybe some of you have been able to take steps towards that this year. I'm sure some of you have, but we're going to really see some movement when we move into the next year. So that I am really excited for. And not that we're not going to have death and rebirth cycles in 2026 or beyond, but I
Right.
think the intensity of what we went through in 2025, I feel like hopefully I feel is going to let up a little bit. What do you think, Kathy?
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree with it. And that's kind of what we were thinking. I'm coming up on an anniversary, and this time of year I always tend to think about it's sort of like a time for me to contemplate like what have I done? What have I done? So 11 years ago, I think it's been about 11 years now. My anniversary is in December, and I had gone in for just a regular routine surgery, and through that process had a near death experience and was in a coma for 6 days. So it's
Wow.
this time of year that brings me into thinking about like, okay, you brought me back here for a reason. Have I been living up to what, some of what I feel was the reason I came back here? This being part of it. So I'll just say that. So we started to talk about that, and one thing that I learned about death or near death experiences is not what people think. You don't have to officially die in order to be able to have a near death experience. It's those transitional moments in your life. Like you could be walking off a sidewalk just across the street and kind of something pulls you back because a car comes so close to you. And right then and there, you could have that feeling that to where your body leaves. Or I know that we talk about, so when I think of near death experiences, I think of that, of just random things. I mean, I had a gastric bypass in 1998. I went to see a psychic many years later, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you were here. Have you died? Because I feel like you're on a new leaf, a new life, a new pattern, and that's the only thing I could think of that I had that may have it attributed to that time period. But also, I came on this path after that gastric bypass, or right around that gastric bypass. I was already searching. So, again, knowing that spirit had led me there because I had technically had something I did not believe in. I did not believe in having surgery to lose weight. I did not. And when I came home and told my husband was like, are you kidding? Like, are you kidding me? He's like, you don't believe in that. And I'm like, I know. Isn't that crazy? Within 6 months, I was in there having it. So
Wow.
you talk about spirit guiding, same thing with, just having a routine surgery and then spirit bring me back. I don't have like a lot of people, my students at the time were like, "Oh, I couldn't wait till you came back so we could find out what you had, the visions you had." I had nothing. I
I was
felt like
just
I
going to
was
ask you, I was
cheated.
going to be like, what happened during those 6 days?
I
What?
felt like I was cheated. Like I don't remember a thing. I remember what happened like when I came back, like the weird things. And it's funny because my family and I were literally just talking, and I was hearing things that that had happened, that they visually, that was happening to them. And I truly feel like I had it easy. That's the one thing I always feel. I always feel in some ways sorry for them for what they went through. My kids were young, and not wanting to go to school. And my husband forced them to go to school for half of the day. He was
Wow.
trying to keep like a routine for them in
Yeah.
some way. And it makes me so sad to hear their experiences, but yet I'm so fascinated by their experience because I don't remember anything. Since that time, I do remember sitting at a round table, and my mother was here and my dad was standing behind her. And I know if my sisters ever see this, they're going to giggle. There's no way my father would have been standing. He would have pulled a chair up and sat at the table. So I don't know why he was standing behind her, but I thought that was kind of funny. And then there was her mother and my grandfather, my mother's father. Like I remember drinking coffee with my mom at the table, and
Wow.
just like I don't remember what we talked about, but I remember having like just a wonderful conversation, like just loving that moment. And I also remember when I went, somehow we were standing, and can remember. It's so funny. I can still feel this to this day, many years later. Her hands on my face, touching my face and saying, "You have to go back, not just for your family, but you have to go back. There's so much more you have to do." And I can remember crying and not wanting to come back. If you've ever
Right.
been over there, you never want to come back. But not trying to like, ruin the end of the movie. But
Right.
yeah, I just I remember that. I didn't remember that until like it started to come back to me. And then there were weird things that I remember, like I was telling them, I remember the first thing I remember is being in the hospital bed and turning. There was a woman standing next to me, a nurse, standing next to me and going, "You look fabulous for being in a coma for 6 days." And I was like, and I just remember like not comprehending it and just kind of turning and seeing like my niece, my husband, my son, my daughter, and my son. And my kids were like, We weren't sitting there. We weren't there, but that's how I remember it.
Yeah.
And then I remember like some crazy story, but yeah, I guess when they brought me back, were able to get me back, there was still something they had given me that sent me off. And so my kids, they came to see me the next day. I feel so bad about this. And I was tied to the bed, which I don't remember because I had tried to get out of the bed and I had tried to, like, I guess not be a very nice person. So I'll just put it that way. But yeah, it was interesting.
Wow.
Interesting. But also this feeling of disconnect. Like I can remember the very first time I was able to go and have dinner with everybody. Like we went out to a restaurant. So it was like I think it was after I got out of the physical, rehab place. Um and I remember sitting at the table and going, okay, this is my daughter, Ariana. This is my son. Like almost like saying it to myself, like introducing them to somebody in there. Like if I knew I loved them. I knew they were my family. I knew I was glad to be back. But there was this weird sort of like almost like the cord was here and there was like this minuscule space between the cord being connected. And it was
Okay,
the most,
well, I'm going to bring up a little tangent point here, and this is totally unscripted for you guys out there watching, but
well, we're always unscripted, so
exactly.
that's a given.
So, do you feel like at all that there's a possibility that you had a walk-in experience? Like, do you think a different soul walked in and that's why you had a
No.
disconnect? Why do you think there was a disconnect with your
No, I
family?
think I feel like when I came back, I wasn't fully present here. I feel like part of me was still there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's always what it feels because I knew who I was. I knew where I was. I didn't feel
Yeah.
like things were going awry, like what's going on? I don't recognize anything. No. I knew who I was. I was able to still and it's funny because I can remember going to a class, like taking a class specifically when I came back because everything had changed like how I used to connect with others on the other side. We used to have little signs, like a Christmas present would be, of course, Christmas. Birthday present would be birthdays. Cakes like would be sort. I mean, we had these little things
Right.
gone. Everything was gone. Everything was gone. The things that I was familiar with as far as what I did and how it came to me, gone. So I remember taking a mediumship class because I just needed to know, like, am I still meant to be here? Am I still meant to do this? And it was the weirdest thing. I have gone and taken classes with John Holland because that's who I took the class with in New Jersey at a church in New Jersey, a spiritualist church in New Jersey who does amazing classes to this day. Their name is Journey Within. If you're looking for something, highly recommend. Um, I went there and there was probably like, I want to say maybe 30, maybe 35 people, which is probably one of the smaller classes that I was ever taken for mediumship
Mm-hmm.
and for him. And he made everybody stand up and say why they were there. And I was like, because I do remember he never did that before.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, that's so interesting. So, of course, when I stood up, I was like, hi, I just had this experience. I'm kind of trying to see, am I still meant to be here? Like, do I still have this gift? Because I hadn't, really connected with anybody. Energy work I had done since I came back, but not, I don't even know if I had done a reading now, thinking on the top of my head. I'm not really sure. I think at that point, maybe not a lot of them but not
Okay.
mediumship, probably psychic readings, but not mediumship. So I was just kind of curious, like, am I still meant to? Because it kind of felt like, hey, I was just there. Where are you? Like, I should
Right.
be more connected now because I just left you all.
Right, right. That's what you would think, or that's what most people would think. And I don't know how many of our, people watching this have had their own near-death experience like that. And what is it like, when you come back from that? Maybe everybody has a different experience,
Oh, absolutely.
obviously.
I have watched a lot of stories. I actually just watched somebody who was talking about near death and her experience with near death, which was fascinating to me. A lot of them see a light. Like I've heard a lot of them, like I've probably seen probably about 20, 25 people, I would say somewhere around there because I've now it's a curiosity of mine like what did they get and
Right.
everybody talks about the light in some way whether it's a tunnel they walk into whether it's but there's always this light.
You don't, at least you don't remember that, huh?
Don't remember that. Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting how a lot of people are the same, but a lot of them, I will tell you the one thing I do connect with, which is why I've been watching so many, is everyone talks about how they feel like they're physically not 100% here.
Oh, okay. So that is a common denominator.
It's been a very common with the people that I've watched, it's been very common. Not all of them, but I mean a lot of them. It's been a common like feeling a little disconnected from they know where they are and they know who the people are,
Yeah.
but there's this sort of weird.
How long did it take you to reacclimate to not feeling that way?
I'll be honest, I literally watched, I don't know if it was Mind Valley. Mind Valley does like a
Yeah.
lot of, I don't know if it was them or Hay House or somebody that had a week long thing on mediumship. Well, of course, I'm all in. Try to watch as much as I can. And there was one woman who I was working with a woman at the time who was coming to my space to do things. And she had act physically been in some ways mentored by this woman, and she was coming on to talk about like a shamanic version of mediumship or the other side. And so I can't, I'm trying like desperately to think of her name because I will give it because she was amazing. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it was like 5 minutes into her talk and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to see this because I just really wanted to see her. When I turned it on, she was talking about her clients and going exactly through this. And I said, well, now I know why I wanted to see her. Now I know why spirit was definitely pushing for me to check this out. And she was talking about how they all feel disconnected. And she was also the one that said, you don't have to die to have a near death experience.
Mm.
It can happen at many points in your life. And
Mm-hmm.
she says that's why there are pieces of us that will go off to save us, to
Mm-hmm.
keep us in play, depending on how severe the process you're going through, which is why they do soul retrievals.
Right.
um to get your pieces to come back to you to kind of like, so that you can
Mm-hmm.
all be together
Mm-hmm.
again. Anyway, another whole nother experience, whole nother conversation. So I'll say that because I've had that happen to me. But again, it was like I was like, and it was so funny because I was in here, I'm in my room at home. Um, and I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Like everything she was saying, I'm like, yes, that's me. Yes, yes, yes. Like she could hear me. And when I was done and the free podcast was over, I walked into out of here and my kids were like, what are you doing in there? Like what is going on? And I just was so in. And then she was having like you could pay to go to, of course, a class or some kind of workshop, something. And I did that, and it really helped me to start to integrate more with myself and start to realize like I can be grounded. And I started working on, for me, how I did it because I kind of, you learn something and then you kind of take and put your own spin on it. Is
Yeah.
I literally would close my eyes and go into meditation because I'm very visual, and I would just pull energy down through my chakras into the ground and ground me deeply into the earth, and then go up and ground myself to spirit. It's a meditation I do with my students all the time because I want them to get to know it so well that they can do it for themselves.
Right.
It's literally grounding from spirit to earth and then expanding out, like centering yourself and then expanding out. And
Yeah.
that's what I did. And I kept seeing myself literally pulling myself down. Once I did the cording through, then I'd go back up and pull myself down and kept pulling my energy in so I could become whole again. And that's what I kept saying is I called every soul piece to come back that could come back if it's time. And I kept like just talking to myself and just really
Mm-hmm.
working with myself. And it actually worked because
Mm.
I was able to sort of come back to me. And then I started accepting all the new things, the new ways that spirit would connect with me, the new found information. I truly believe that happened because they needed to raise my vibration.
I
They
was just gonna
needed,
ask that. Yeah.
I 100% believe that I was calibrated to go for where we're going now, for what's happening now, because the profound information that comes to me now is not something that was happening before it happened.
So
The
I was
way
going
that
to
I,
ask you after the period of time, however long that period of time was from the time that you had the near-death experience to, whenever, a week later, a month later, a year later, were there physical differences that you felt or just energetic differences that you felt or and experienced or all of the
both.
above? Okay.
Well, I mean, I had to go through a lot and still to this day have a lot of like the physicalities that are not 100% back. Like I lose my energy a lot. I literally can be walking through. It's funny. I just went to a store and lights are a big thing. Lighting is a big thing for me in stores.
Hmm.
Like I can't, if they have really bright, which we love because we can see, but I can't last long in them. It zaps my energy like crazy. My energy is very, very specific. And like even just walking, like if I want to go to a fair and walk around, it's not as easy for me
Hmm.
to do that. It's like I do fine and then all of a sudden my energy is gone.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, time to go now. Like I need to go sit down when you guys can go look, but find me a place to sit and just leave me and I'm okay. Like I always find a way to do whatever. And then it recoups enough so that I can, go leave, get to the
Right.
car or whatever.
Right.
But it's annoying because I don't care for that. So I'll just say that. But we're working on it and it's gotten better. It's just like minuscule. Like it takes mini
Well,
things.
it makes
So,
sense if if you were recalibrating in your experience of the near-death experience and your vibration was, being raised to a certain degree that coming back to this dense third dimensional planet would be
well,
more draining.
the other thing that I just clicks with me now is I had 9 blood transfusion. I actually probably think I had more than that. Nine
Oh,
blood transfusions. So I didn't have my own energy in me. I didn't have
right.
my own source of blood in me. So it makes me almost think like, of course, why wouldn't you feel like you're not 100% you?
You. Hmm.
Because I have
Yeah,
clearly nine other people.
that could be a whole nother podcast right there.
I know. It's like I have 9 other people that were so lovingly, donated. Thank you all.
Yes,
But
right.
again, it's like it's just another kind of piece that I've never really thought about. But it was also like almost like a spiritual blankness to it when I came back. Like almost like I know you're there. Like I'm still connecting with, who I choose to believe in, which for me is God. So I know that like my team is still there, but it's almost like we're swapping out people to give her new ones now for where she is.
Right.
So it's kind of like, okay, well, I know some of you and some of you I don't, because I can feel familiar with some of you, but yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like this just like a whole new beginning, like a whole new palette, you know. I mean, I could be funny and just say like it would have been great if they would have given me a whole new body because that would have been awesome. you know, all of a sudden you got blonde
Right.
hair, blue eyes, and you're like size 5. Like that would have been lovely. But
Yeah, yeah, that
no,
would be
I'm just
great.
joking. But yeah, but but again, working with what I need to do and moving me to where I need it to be for sure.
Yeah.
So it's always been a fascination, but also looking, tying it into where we are now, it just makes sense. It doesn't mean just because I had that happen that oh, good, I'm all fixed. I can just go on now for the rest of my life. There's still things that need to be released. Old
Right.
habits, old mentalities,
Yeah.
old energy, that's dynamics that still need
Right.
to be let go, that still need to be worked on.
And it also doesn't mean that we all have to go through a physical death, sort of, out of body, whatever kind of experience to have a death and rebirth experience, right? I mean, certainly certain situations and circumstances that a lot of people go through, traumatic and challenging circumstances can cause a death and rebirth experience, right? It's more
Yeah.
metaphoric, but it's still a death and rebirth experience. You're releasing old energies and you're in the rebirth process, you're kind of forming a new sense of self or identity, depending on what the situation is and what the circumstance is. I mean,
Right.
I think for me, I mean, I've never been through a literal death and rebirth experience like you, but been through enough more like family system growing up and relationship situations as an adult, challenges that brought about a lot of death and rebirth experiences for me. I mean, when you're a small child, especially, and you're in a dysfunctional family system, you don't have the ability to say I'm not dealing with this and walking out the door. You're 5, 6,
Right.
7 years old or whatever, and so some of the trauma of, the experience of having like an alcoholic father, let's say, who comes home and is like physically abusive to mom or throwing things around and having fits of rage or whatever. Yeah, yes, this is my life. So, that causes definitely some soul fragmentation
Mm.
and a death and rebirth experience, for that child, for the young soul that's inhabiting that, that child body or whatnot. And, we might not know until much later on, as we get older and we become an adult, and then we magnetize situations to us that emulate those relationships with our parents, in our now adult relationships. And then again, we're going through more mini death and rebirth experiences through different types of traumatic experiences that might be somewhat similar, maybe not. And, as I fast forward to how old I am now, and hopefully, have moved beyond that, mm, what do I want to say? The soul's need to bring in other experiences that are going to repeat themselves. Hopefully, at this point, I can have that awareness and say, okay, what did I learn? How did this help me? I mean, as weird as that sounds, how did those death and rebirth experiences, those traumatic, challenging, soul fragmenting experiences, how did it, how did it help me to grow? What
Right.
lessons did it provide my soul, and how did it help me to grow? And now can I have that awareness? Can I reclaim my power? Can I reclaim those soul fragments? Maybe through my own journaling or meditative work, maybe through past life regression or shamanic soul retrieval or whatever it is, right? We have to go out and look at those different healing modalities that can help us. But
Right.
still, in all, those are also, our death and rebirth experiences
Hmm.
as well.
Right. And it also can just be like different types for different reasons. It could be releasing people that you came in from other lifetimes, that you had contracts with. It's to close those contracts, to let them go, to get you to the point to where you can now if you're meant to be in another lifetime together, can be
Mm,
free and clear, and almost in a way starting anew in some way,
yeah,
or just releasing it because it's time. It could
absolutely.
also change thoughts, feelings, emotions, and things that happen, because this is not the first time that I've experienced this. That's the first time that it's funny. My girlfriend, Kim, and we used to have a group called Mediums at Large. It was Gina, Kim, and myself. Kim and I had had a conversation about a lot of people that we've met on this path, a lot of mediums that we had met at the time of taking classes, workshops, trying to enhance our gift, trying to help to be better at what we do. And we talk about we got in a conversation once. I said, "Did you ever die?" And she goes, "No." And I said, "Me either." I said, "But have you noticed a lot of our friends have had near death experiences?" Well, just an FYI, both of us have now had that experience. And when this happened,
Wow.
she was one of the people, as a matter of fact, at the hospital. I had two really good friends that kept telling them they were my sisters, because my sisters didn't live anywhere near me. So they kept telling them that they were my sisters so somebody could be there. So Dave could go and deal with the kids, and somebody would be there in case I came out of the coma, or in case, that kind of thing. Which I, to this day, am so grateful for them to do that, to help. And it cracked me up when I ever said, "You said what? You told them what?" Like, it just kind of cracked me up. But I said to her, when I got really coherent, I looked at her and I said, "Well, can't say I haven't had a near death experience now." And the two of us started laughing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that we. And I looked at her and I said, "Do you think we manifested? Like, do you think we brought that on somehow?" But again, it was meant to happen. Whatever was meant to happen was meant to happen. And there's no way of controlling, not controlling. Clearly it's where my path was meant to be, to shift me to where I needed to be. And any of the other ones, like if you guys are, connecting with this, um if any of you out there are connecting with this, I mean, it just, and again, not meaning the physical death, but the same exact things can happen. I know for a fact, you don't think I was over 600 pounds when I had my gastric bypass. We technically don't know, because I had lost weight by the time they officially weighed me. So we're not
Wow.
really sure. I just know that at that point I want to say 619 pounds. So I know I was bigger than that. But I was out there doing work every day. I didn't know anything different. I've never been thin in this lifetime, so I didn't know anything different. But you don't think that I didn't feel different after that? You don't think that I became somebody different after that? Of course I did.
Mm-hmm.
Of course I did. I've lost half of my weight. I
Right.
lost a whole person and a half,
Right.
by technical body size terms, because I'll just put it that way,
Yeah.
which you know how we all feel about that. But yeah. So
Just like
again,
the relationship stuff that I was just talking about, or if you lose a loved one, right? You know, God forbid a parent loses a child, or you lose your husband or your wife, or these are death and rebirth experiences, but it's for soul growth and evolution, right? I
right,
mean, it's for us reclaiming our power, setting better boundaries, embodying more of our essence toward, towards the idea of wholeness, if you will, gaining gifts on the path. I mean, there's a whole slew of reasons why
right.
we go through these
If they can't get
experiences.
us to where they need us to be for what we're here to do, they're going to do what they can do to help us get there. That's why I always tell my clients when somebody comes to me, I'm like, you need to get your toe on the path, or you don't let, if spirit takes a hold, it's not going to be pretty because it doesn't feel good for us. It gets us out of our comfort zone. It doesn't mean it's not going to be pretty. It just
Hmm.
doesn't feel good because they're going to push
Right.
you right on out of the nest and get you moving. And
Yeah.
I've been there as well. I have had that happen to me as
It's like
well.
that tower card moment. If anybody knows tarot or whatnot, there's
Yes,
a card called the tower card, and we can get ahead of the tower card and say, oh, there's something coming, so I need to redirect, or I need to change, or I need to, facilitate something different in my life. Or if I don't, just like you're saying, it's like the universe, will provide some sort of scenario to kind of pull the rug from underneath you to get you moving in a
right.
particular direction towards growth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, it's an amazing situation to have happened because I'll say that. And the reason that I think of it this time of year is not to hold on to it in a negative way. It's to kind of remind myself like you're here for something. Keep going. Keep working. Keep looking. Keep learning.
Right.
Keep yourself going. I mean, this year has been a difficult year for
Yeah.
so many people
Yeah.
and still is proving to be a bit of a challenging year.
Hmm.
Snakes are interesting. Snakes to me, they are about transformation because when they shed their skin, it's like becoming anew. But it's more than it's not even I want to say transmutation because transmutation is more connected to you.
Yeah.
Transformation is about changing your surroundings, changing. It's not that you don't change yourself, but transmutation is about taking your skin off and becoming somebody new if you think of like a snake perspective. But they also are sneaky and slithery and can be a little they can be so
It
it's
can
been
be intense, if you liken it to the sign of Scorpio, which I always think of. I mean, I know
yes,
Scorpio is the sign of the scorpion, but I always think of snake energy when I think of Scorpio, and it can be really intense and sometimes even a little scary, and it's like, ooh, I don't want to go
yes,
there. But what is the higher aspect of all that is the phoenix, like you're talking about, rising, transmuting those lower vibrational emotions, feelings, thoughts, perceptions, perspectives,
right.
belief systems, and rising from the ashes like the phoenix, born anew.
Well, and the one thing that we can remember is the other thing about a snake is think of their perspective. They're on the ground, they're always looking up.
Yeah,
They have no other way to look but up.
right,
So in some ways it's like that's what they want. Even though you're going through this, keep looking up. Even though I went through what I went through, I kept looking up. Well, really, I wanted to just
right,
get out of any facility. I wanted to get home,
right,
if you think of it that way. But I kept looking up. Like I didn't get depressed. I didn't hold myself
right.
back. Like it doesn't
And
mean I didn't feel sadness. It doesn't mean that I didn't feel it.
yeah. And I think the reminder is that once you go through that snake energy and rebirth yourself or transmute yourself and you're rising like the phoenix, then your perspective is from up high and
Right,
looking down at the third dimensional reality that you are playing a part of and saying, "Oh, well now I can see the bigger picture. Now I can see what my life is meant for or why I had to go through that experience because you're the phoenix and you've risen above it all."
right, exactly. So, but it's still could, and even though it's funny because for some reason they're showing me, spirits showing me how phoenixes have a really long tail. So
Hmm.
there is a piece that's still connected somewhat to the 3D reality. There's a
Right.
piece that's why, thoughts, emotions, moving our mindset into that sort of like, okay, this is what triggers me. Here's how I always react. How can I react differently to move me into a different perspective.
Right.
So there's a lot of that. So many things, like so many things. I mean, I could talk for hours about, clearly, about not just my experience, but the connectedness of it all. And that's a lot of what we say, you and I say all the time, is like, oh, that brings it into a whole nother conversation, a whole nother podcast. That, because
Yeah,
again, but I love this. I love just like shooting off each other and talking about your
right.
experience, my experience, because they're very similar.
Yeah,
Different things that brought us to that, but they're very similar.
for
And your
sure.
movement is what is the big thing. It's that's why I say, if something is being really challenging now, I try to bring myself into the perception of, oh, this is happening because something good is coming after this. Once I get over this speed bump, something big is coming.
That's a great perspective, right?
Like, if
Yeah.
I can just get through this, it doesn't mean that I don't feel it. Doesn't mean that I don't have days where I'm like, oh my God, can this just stop?
Uh,
Can we just get past this? There's not, this doesn't mean that we're not, like, the human emotions are still
yeah,
in there.
yeah,
But if you can take it and say, okay, I'm going to feel this, I'm going to allow myself to have this moment,
yeah.
and then I'm going to get past it and start thinking again
I feel like
positively.
that right now because I'm going through what an astrologer will call their Saturn return. So you're about 29, 30 years old, you have your first Saturn return. You're around 59, 60 years old, you have your second Saturn return. And that's what I keep reminding myself of because I can look at my own chart and see when it's going to be over with. I'm like, if you can just make it till this time, which is before the end of this year. You just make it a few more weeks and you're going to have something to look forward to. You're going to be coming into it's like this big release of some old stories and patterns has been taking place, will be completed, and you'll be able to move forward into a new sense of self and a new identity and new beginnings on your life purpose and your life path. And so, even though whoever's listening to this, they may not know their astrology chart. They might not say, well, I'm not 30 and I'm not 60, so I can't be going through my Saturn return. You've still got something, right, that potentially is happening in your astrology chart, in your soul's evolution and growth that is bringing you to a point of, oh, how much longer is this purging, releasing, transmuting, death and rebirth stuff going to happen for me? It's like I've been through so much.
Hmm.
Just shift that perspective, like Kathy's saying, and just, look at when I'm through this. And then, if you want to find out when it's over from an astrological standpoint or an intuitive reading standpoint, then by all means, go find out. But once I'm through this, I've got so much to look forward to. I'll have new gifts. I'll have a new sense of my self-identity, new confidence, maybe a new path before me, and it can be quite exciting. So,
Well, the
what
other thing too
I
is, if you put yourself into the mindset of knowing, like, after I get past this, something good is coming,
yes,
take the moment now to say, okay, is there anything I can do to kind of help myself, you know,
right. Get there.
arrive there with less stuff, arrive there with less
Right.
emotions, arrive there
Yeah.
with the, like what it like I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go. No, I'm gonna let it go now. Yep, I'm letting it go. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, and you
Mm-hmm.
still got your finger on it.
Yeah.
That's why things will come back around to us. Like, why do I always meet the same kind of guys? I get asked that a lot. I'm like,
Yeah.
because you haven't fixed your picker.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a simple answer, but the work isn't so simple. Let's put it that
Right.
way.
Right.
But again, it's like looking at yourself and truly looking at yourself with like, okay, that is like a horrible part of me that I really don't like to look at, but what can I do with it? So it's sort of like cleaning out your closet, cleaning out Pandora's. I always think of Pandora's box. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, let's just shove it in Pandora's box because I don't want to deal with it. Like, it's
Right.
lock key thing. It's one of those lock, 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 lock,
Yeah.
because we really want to make sure it stays where I put it. Yeah, but it's not doing you any good. It's not
No.
helping you. That's how I got over 600 pounds, is by doing that, by shoving it away, shoving it down. Let's just go eat. It's easier.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel my emotions through food.
Right. But
Yeah.
if you can face that, I mean, a lot of people call it the shadow, right? Whatever that
Yeah.
is, fears, doubts, insecurities. If you can take the time to face the shadows It's not going to have to be forever. You face the shadows, and sure, there might be other shadows that come up along the way about different things, but
Hmm.
face what in the moment is going on for you now and know that this isn't going to last forever. And if I actually focus on working on myself and my subconscious and those patterns, I can then be able to release that and not have to live that pattern anymore. And I can
Right.
then look forward to the new and most wonderful relationship or the wonderful job that's going to be financially secure for me or good health and well-being and vitality or whatever it might be for each person.
Yeah. And the one thing you have to remember is we're not always going to stay there.
Right.
Like we can find the wonderful job. Job is a good analogy for me because we can find the wonderful job, but if you don't keep moving and growing and allowing yourself to move and grow, now your job has gotten into, oh my God, I'm still at this job. I used to love this job. Now I don't know what I'm still doing here. Like it can easily, it's that movement. It's allowing the
Hmm.
light to pull you and light the way for you and
Right.
keep you
Which
moving.
goes to you listening to your own inner intuition. It's like, oh, I love this job. And 3 years later, I'm not really passionate about this anymore. Pay attention to that intuition and that thought that you're having. Don't stay
Yes,
there any longer. Start looking for what the next step is or whatever, right? And
absolutely.
a lot of us we get complacent, we get afraid. Security feels sometimes better or more familiar than stepping out on a limb or jumping off a cliff, and looking for something new. But like Kathi said earlier, or like we both said earlier, the rug will get pulled out from under you if you don't continue to change, grow, redirect, evolve, listen to your intuition.
Right.
Yeah.
What I think now at this point in my life to kind of like surmise, because we're getting to the point to where we're almost done, which is so hard because it's such a great conversation and there's so many more places we can go. But again, and this is where we leave it up to all of you. Like send us your comments. What else would you like us to talk about? If you enjoyed this conversation, you thought of like, oh, I wish they would have talked about, I wish they would have gone into this. Please put it out there and let us know. Because we want you to be part of this also. We want you to be part of our talking conversation people. So yeah. But to surmise it, it also goes into the fact of now I know now I totally forgot where I was going to go with what I was going to say. Um
Listening
what
to
I
your
think
intuition.
right, what I think when I think about the experience that I've had and where I'm going, I think about when it comes that day to when it is my time to leave this earthly plane. I think to myself, I do not want any shoulda, woulda, couldas. So what can I continue to do today? What can I continue to push myself to put myself out there today so that I won't look back at the end of my life and go, oh, if I would have only done that at that point in my time. Like take a risk, take a leap. If it feels so strongly in your heart for you, just go for it.
Hmm.
If it doesn't work out, maybe something, and usually what happens is that particular situation might not work out, but it leads you to the one that is going to then work out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's all I have to say about that for today. But anyway,
Sounds like a great closing point here.
absolutely. Thank you all so much for your love and support. I hope you enjoy this. Please put comments. It'll be on the Empowered Voices YouTube channel. It will be on, I have it everywhere that I'm connected to. So anything that I'm connected to that you're on, you probably have seen it there. Because I have two Facebook pages, one for Voices of Enlightenment that it's on. We also have our Empowered Voices Facebook page. I have Kathi Munson Facebook page. I have intuitivecat.com, cat spelled with a K. That's my website for the moment. I also put it on there. So it's out there. You can't miss it. Hopefully you'll leave your comments. You can private message us clearly if there's anything that you want to connect with us about. We both do readings. We also do readings together for people. So if you want the two of us to come and give our concept of a reading for you, we also do that together as well. Colleen,
Absolutely.
anything that you'd like to?
I don't think so. I
add?
think you covered all the bases. I mean,
Well, what's your website?
oh, well, my website is just my name. Thank you. ColleenLemma.com, my YouTube channel, Colleen Lemma, and Facebook pages, Colleen Lemma, and Instagram, Colleen Lemma. Or you can look up under Sacred Soul Empowerment. You can also find me that way. So thank you.
Yes.
Thanks,
So we will see
everybody.
you next month with a new topic of discussion. Be well, everybody. Have a great holiday. Really embrace you this holiday and then your family this holiday. Remember to put yourself in that mix. Give yourself a hug just as much as you're going to be hugging all your relatives. Um, and,
Absolutely.
and we will see you next month. Be well, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.